What's up, everybody, and welcome to ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news each and every day. I'm Drew Bosley, that's Scott Savage, and you can join us at InsideTheGame.ca, our YouTube channel at Inside the Game Official, podcast services, thanks to our friends at Fired Up Network, and all those beautiful TV streaming platforms around the globe. Roku, Amazon Prime, Samsung Plus, Jinx Esports TV, ESTV, and a whole lot more. Scott, we got a whole lot to talk about for Xbox today. What's on the show?
That's right, it's all Xbox today. The new Xbox console is supposed to be coming in 2028. We'll get more on that. And there's a new Xbox Series X model as well. Interestingly enough, we're going to go through Elder Scrolls 6 and how that's most likely going to be exclusive.
Yeah, chances are. After Starfield, kind of makes a lot of sense. Scott, we got a lot going on in the show right now. Steve and I are working on the latest Cyberpunk DLC, Phantom Liberty. We're working on that. We've got a bunch of reviews dropping next week as well. I've got Mortal Kombat in the works going up this week. A lot of things to stay tuned for. Check it out. We got some big news coming up here in the next, I'd say, week and a half. Something big is happening over here at ITG as well. And we're looking forward to announcing that and launching it, making it a bigger splash for ITG and somewhere else you can find us. So make sure you stay tuned. But right now, let's talk about it. A new Xbox console. God, the Xbox rumors have just continued. The leaks are just abundance. They're all out on the table. The FTC fiasco. The funny thing is, yesterday I saw a lot of stuff go up going, it wasn't even the FTC. It was Microsoft who put this up by accident, which is just bizarre. They leaked their own information, which has just been... a whirlwind of things going across the internet, and we jumped on it too because there's a lot to talk about. Microsoft targeted a 2028 launch for its next Xbox console. Tom Ivan over at VGC. While the plans may have changed, the expected launch window was referenced in a May 2022 meeting attended by top company executives, including CEO Satya Nadella, CFO Amy Hood, and head of gaming Phil Spencer. Axios reports excerpts of a transcript of the meeting were released. Excerpts. Yeah, I was like, wait a sec, experts. Excerpts of a transcript of the meeting were released as part of Microsoft's legal battle with the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, which just continues to go on and go on.
It's still not over, believe it or not.
And maybe eventually we'll get over with this, which has been seeking to block the Xbox makers' proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard. During the meeting, one Microsoft executive asked the gaming team whether the next Xbox console might move away from having fixed hardware specifications. Quote, one of the things consoles have been really great at is giving a very clear platform target for developers, and development kits has been really good at this. There's one, as corporate vice president of immersive experience. Another question read, quote, is the plan for 2028 to keep that eligible like a model or force a window like a flexible capabilities like model? We have already started this journey with Xbox One and the Xbox One X, furthering it into the Series S and X. This was from Kevin Gamble, corporate vice president of gaming ecosystems. Quote, we need to be even more flexible going forward with Gen 10. It's just funny, dude, I can't believe we're this far already. Gen 10.
Yeah, I lost track of what gen was which.
Yeah,
10 years ago.
But also provide the ability for creators to take advantage of unique hardware capabilities. Discussing the potential launch timing of new hardware in statements provided to the UK's Competition and Markets Authority last year, Microsoft lawyers said the next new generation of consoles are not expected to be released before the fall of 2028 at the very earliest. Scott, let's stop right there. I want to talk about this. That's 8 years, right? At the
that's
8-year cycle of the generation, is it not time for a new one?
Yeah, that seems like quite a long generation. I'm not sure if I remember correctly how long the longest current standing generation has been, but to say 8 years seems like an incredible amount of time, considering that our technology is always, exponentially racing forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say it was PS4 or PS3 with like 10 years. And then it was time for a new one. Like 10 years is a long time. So you do see that jump in tech really kind of exceed over top of the last generation of consoles. Here we are still 3 years in, and a lot of people still don't have what I'm calling now current gen, right? They're still on last gen consoles, whether that's PS4 or the Xbox One. And it's been interesting to see how they're trying to convert everybody over. And that's the overgrowing battle every time they launch a new console. How do we convert people, right? How do you get them to jump into the next generation of your platform? And granted, dude, Starfield, I think, is a good ode to why you want to jump in. You can still play it on last gen consoles though, right? Like, don't forget about that. But still the opportunity to play it at the better console, this, that, and the other. More games moving forward. We're starting to see some games now skip last generation altogether. You can only play it on the next gen, right? So there's all those opportunities that are starting to push things into where we are right now with current gen, I guess. But either way, while the companies have previously introduced major upgrades to the consoles after 3 or 4 years on the market, current gen supply issues caused by the COVID-19 pandemic hit adoption rates and may have impacted the timelines for a planned mid-cycle hardware refresh. In June, Microsoft's Xbox boss Phil Spencer said a potential mid-cycle upgrade for the Xbox Series X wasn't a priority for Microsoft, and he reiterated this in interviews published last month. Quote, as soon as you start doing mid-gen refreshes, you've got a bunch of issues in front of developers on what platform they target. Scott, we just saw that coming with Baldur's Gate 3 for the Xbox, right? Dude, on current gens, because they have Xbox Series S and X, where they couldn't get the co-op feature to work on S, so they just cut it out completely.
Yeah, it's really strange because it seems like we're at a next step of how the console generation is handled entirely. Are we doing it split skew?
Yeah.
It seems that the Xbox One and the One X did a split skew as well, and that seemed to be much more successful than the series consoles have been so far. But moving into the step after that, I liked the question that is being asked: are we going to stick with a console? Even it sounds, if I read between the lines there, it sounds like the next console generation is going to be more of like a
Stadia,
an enabling chip or services. That's right.
Right.
I'm thinking as long as you have an adequate, sufficient hardware, it'll enable you to play Game Pass or whatever the other competitors will be at that point.
Absolutely.
I think we're going to see a lot of weird changes happen in the next generation.
Well, yeah. And Spencer added, if we get into a console world where every 2 years we now have 3 or 4 closed ecosystems that are upgrading their hardware every 2 years, I'm going to wonder, how is that helping creators or players? To me, it feels like we are creating a ton of complexity for creators and players in something that used to be very simple. Dude, remember Nintendo NES? You had one box. Put your game in, play the game. Now you got right. We're about to talk about the next Xbox here in a second on topic number 2, but it's just one of those things. Last generation we had PS4, we had PS4 Pro, Xbox One, Xbox One X, and there was a jump in performance. That was the biggest takeaway, right? There is a big significant jump in how quick everything loaded. This, that, and the other. Now we're into SSDs, which then ups the price of the console, and this is why the consoles are now so expensive, because of the new SSD hardware and all the other chips and this, that, and the other that all intertwine when it comes to the technology of our consoles. But it's still one of those things, dude, you're separating your player base, right? And dude, I don't remember if you remember back in the day. This is just a game. Assassin's Creed had multiplayer, right? And you don't see this anymore, but which is unfortunate. But my point is, I'm getting there, Scott. What Assassin's Creed did is what their multiplayer, you had to pay for the extra maps. And what that did was actually separated the player base. Instead of just giving us the maps and charging us for other stuff like cosmetics, they charged you for the maps, which then separated your player base. Here, we're getting in with consoles, is doing the same thing. Series S, Series X. It separates your player base. Granted, they're still on one platform, but it still separates what the capabilities are. Again, coming back to Baldur's Gate 3. That's a big difference. All of a sudden now, I'm talking to my brother, convinced him to buy an Xbox. He's like, which one do I get? S or X? I said, go X. He goes, yeah, but it's more money. I said, I know, but it's more powerful. And you're going to get everything else moving forward out of it, where the S, you're already limited out the gate. Granted, you can afford what you can afford, right? And I'm not saying the S is bad by any means. My son has an S and loves it. He thinks it's a fantastic console. And granted, it is a great console, but you're already seeing the limitations of the power technology that's in there that's holding them back. So now when we get into the next one, Scott, like, dude, it just never ends, right? when we get into this new Xbox. Actually, let's bring it in. Topic number 2, Scott. This is Microsoft's new discless Xbox Series X design with a lift to wake controller. That's what I said.
I kind of like that idea.
Let me repeat this. A lift to wake controller. Tom Warren over at The Verge. Microsoft is planning to refresh its Xbox Series X console in 2024. So that's 4 years after the launch of the Xbox Series X.
A little more reasonable in that regard.
Right? There's some new things in there. With an all-new design and features. Codenamed Brooklyn, the unannounced console refresh has been accidentally revealed. See, here we go again. More leaks, right? For the FTC versus Microsoft documents this week. The new Xbox Series X design looks a lot more cylindrical than the existing console, without a doubt, which makes me nervous because right now I actually have to lay mine down, Scott, because it doesn't fit where I put it. So now I have to stand it up. Where am I putting this thing?
That's precisely what I was thinking immediately. Yeah, I think I have about a 10-inch little shelf, and it fits perfectly laid down sideways.
Yep.
I'm sure I'm cooking it a little bit with the heat, but I'm limited on my space.
Okay, now I'm going to tell you a story because right now I'm having a massive problem with my previous Series X. I had to go buy a new one just the other day because, dude, it sounds like a jet engine's taking off. And if you remember the red ring of death, I'm telling you, this is where my Series X is going because it is laying down. The thermal paste, I think, is come off again.
Oh, no.
And it's overheating my console and completely shutting it down. I went out and bought a new one because I'm like, I need an Xbox to do what we do here. And I don't have time to fix it. I'm going to fix it, but now my wife's going to have it. So now we each have a Series X, which is going to work pretty nice, I guess. But at the same time,
accidental upgrade. But
yeah, man, I didn't want to go out and buy because it's all of a sudden, dude, it sounds. I don't know if anybody remembers. You probably do if you had a PS4 back in the day. It sounded like a jet engine. I'm telling you, this is the same thing right now for my Xbox Series X, and it just revs right up. I was like, what is happening here? And then it overheats and shuts it down. So I've unplugged it. Order some thermal paste. I'm gonna fix it.
It's comically loud until it actually shuts down. Then it's not funny anymore.
Yeah, no, it's pretty. Yeah, but either way, okay, let's get back into the article. Story time. All right, the new Xbox Series X design looks a lot more cylindrical than existing console and will ship without a disk drive. Internal confidential Microsoft documents revealed it has a 2 terabytes of storage, up from the 1 terabyte, a USB-C front port with power delivery, and an all-new, more immersive controller. The controller, codenamed Sybil, is set to be announced early next year for $69.99. That's US, Scott, and will include an accelerometer, which should let you merely lift it to wake the gamepad. Interesting. It has 2-tone color scheme and will support a direct connection to the cloud. Bluetooth 5.2 was my dyslexia kicking in, Scott, and a presumably updated Xbox Wireless 2 connection. Microsoft also lists precision haptic feedback. There it is. Copying over from the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller having feedback. We knew it was a matter of time before Xbox followed suit, right?
Yeah, it really has been long enough. PlayStation really innovated on the controllers that we've used for decades now. It's about time Xbox catches up.
Yeah, absolutely. So that has me pretty excited. Dude, I love the haptic feedback in the controller. I think it's a wonderful addition. You can take it off too, because I know my son Austin, he will take it off if he's going into a shooter, because he doesn't want, like, a competitive shooter, right? So that because he doesn't want to fight with the controller to take out whoever he's up against, which I understand. So hopefully they have that ability there. And VCA haptic double as speakers. As specific specs for the controller, it will also have a quieter buttons and thumbsticks, a rechargeable and swappable battery, and modular thumbsticks. Correction comes in here. We originally wrote the Sybil gamepad would have gyro support, but that should require a gyroscope in addition to the accelerometer we're seeing. And a 3-axis accelerometer can detect basic movement for things like lift to wake. But adding in, remember the PS3 where they had the whole 6-axis? That was the big takeaway for PlayStation, where you can tilt your controller and then your guy, oh man, it was a pain. Never used it, hated it.
Wasn't there like a Killzone sniper that you could use that for? That's what I think I remember.
Well, it's still to this day though, like the Nintendo Switch still uses it, right? They still have that tilt feature and this, that, and the other. So there is
actually,
that.
This does remind me a little bit of the Nintendo Switch. One problem I might have with this controller, just seeing it in advance, is that if you ever try and put one of these things into a backpack and bring it to your parents, like I did with my Switch, it will just battery's dead by the time you get there. Yeah.
That's so irritating. It's not clear if modular simply means the joysticks tops can be swapped, kind of like the, I want to say it's the DualSense Edge controller, right? That's their Elite controller. You can actually pop off the thumbstick or the analog sticks and put on new ones. Which if they get drifted. Awesome.
Very good until you drop it and it explodes and goes everywhere.
It's pretty tight. It's pretty solid in there. I have one. It's a cool controller. Like on Microsoft's Elite gamepads or something fancier like the modules in Sony's DualSense Edge. Sony's DualSense Edge controller predominantly features VCA haptics that can technically double as speakers. Inside the new Xbox Series X design, Microsoft is also adding Wi-Fi 6E support, a Bluetooth 5.2 radio, and the company is shrinking the existing die to 6 nm for improved efficiency. The PSU power will be reduced to 15%. According to Microsoft document, Microsoft is targeting the same $499, again US price, at launch for the new Xbox Series X. Scott, another mid-gen console. Good thing, bad thing. What are your thoughts?
I view this a little bit more of just like a better Series X. It doesn't seem to be different enough to be a Series Y like I've been playing around with.
Yeah.
But the idea of having no disk drive, I've seen a lot of people really angry about that. But it is also, it's just kind of a thing in the future we're going to have to deal with. And I've seen a lot of the reasoning behind that explained as there's a real effort to make everything ecologically smaller, a smaller footprint. And having disk drives in the console not only raises cost by a little bit, marginal of course, but there's penalties to that. They're very incentivized to come under a certain amount of use. And that's one way they achieve it.
Well, which is fair. For me, a downloadable console only makes total sense. I never use a disc. I have disk drive, obviously, for the Series X and my PS5. Dude, I've never put a disc in either one of them. Like, not once.
Do you have a disk drive in your computer? Because I do not.
That's a good question. No. Now I'm looking. You made me look, Scott. No, I don't. Right? Everything. I just download it and upload it. Like, that's the way it works.
That's what got me. I'm all for preservation, and I have a whole shelf full of games. But at the same time, how often do I use it?
Never. Right? That's the biggest thing, dude. I want to reference quickly because it is sad, but Marvel's Avengers getting shut down completely. Right? They're just taking it offline. We saw it on sale for $3.99. You'll never get that game again. Right? That's the problem. Again, but who's playing it? Dude, I don't remember the last time I played it at all. We often here move on to whatever new next and nice and shiny kind of thing. It's kind of the nature of what we do here. But at the same time, there are certain games I do jump back to once in a while. But again, I download it. But they're completely like taking it offline. So that's the issue, right? That's the biggest issue without having a disc functionality. So I don't know.
There have been several online. I have the Metal Gear Solid HD collection twice because it's been delisted, and Orange Box as well. Same reason.
Right? Yeah, it's definitely a problem. But here we go again, Scott. Another Xbox. Scott, this should come as no surprise, man. The Elder Scrolls 6 will skip PS5 and isn't coming until at least 2026. Andrew Webster at The Verge. A document released as part of the FTC Microsoft case, still going, we all know it, isn't going to launch for a few years, and it isn't coming to PlayStation. According to the new chart, which Microsoft produced for the FTC, the next Elder Scrolls game isn't expected to launch until at least 2026, something a Microsoft lawyer also mentioned in the court case. And much like Bethesda's most recent games, Starfield and Redfall, it'll be available on both PC and Xbox when it does launch. In a statement about exclusivity attached to the Elder Scrolls 6 section of the chart, which comes from an interview with the Xbox head Phil Spencer in CQ, Spencer said, "In order to be on Xbox, I want us to be able to bring the full complete package of what we have, and that would be true when I think about Elder Scrolls 6. Scott, are you really that surprised? I'm not.
No, not incredibly surprised. This is the kind of thing they shell out the billions and billions of dollars to secure, and of course they're going to use that in an exclusive manner. That's made evident by Starfield. That really is the best example. and I don't think it's going to stop there. Starfield is an incredible hit. Nobody's going to argue that.
Nope.
But the next thing that Bethesda produces will likely also be an incredible hit.
You want to talk about pushing consoles? How do you do that? You have successful exclusives, right? PlayStation's no different. Horizon, God of War, Spider-Man. You can only play it on PlayStation. So if you want to play those games, what do? You go buy a PlayStation. If you want to play Starfield, go buy an Xbox. Or have Game Pass on your PC. If you have a high-end PC or a capable PC, then you can at least play it that way. Xbox is a little bit more open, but they're not going to put it on the competition. Dude, they spent $7 billion to buy Bethesda ZeniMax, right? The whole ZeniMax crew and all them and all their studios. And when Starfield, as of yesterday, hit 10 million players, kind of tells you the story moving forward. Why would they put Elder Scrolls 6, the next Skyrim or whatever they're going to call it, on PlayStation when it drives so many people to their own platform? And it drives in the dollars, right? That's the key thing. These games are expensive. Very, very expensive to make. How do you recoup that? Well, you drive them to your platform. Granted, if they were to put it on PlayStation, Scott, they still do really, really well over there too, wouldn't they? Like here's the thing.
They would.
PlayStation has the higher install base. They're losing out in some degree, aren't they?
The weirdest way I can see it happening is Xbox wants to get you to play anywhere, play everywhere with the Game Pass, and I wonder if we're talking many years in the future now, so it is kind of a strange idea. But what if Xbox was able to put Game Pass on other hardware? There's a lot of conversation as to what the next generation Xbox is going to look like, what the hardware specs are going to require, and it's my kind of working theory right now, that it's going to be down to minimum specs, and therefore any hardware could run any console's kind of exclusives. It's a weird world that I'm imagining in the future, but I could see Game Pass being on a lot more devices.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That would be your option of breaking the exclusivity.
Yeah, which is fair, right? But again, people stated, you will buy an Xbox to play Starfield. Straight up. That's what people are doing. So that's what they want to do moving forward. So Elder Scrolls 6 has a huge following. Dude, Xbox exclusive makes a ton of sense and a ton of money. Only futures will tell, though. Will PlayStation finally get it at the end of the day, though? Maybe they just hold it off for a year and then send it over. PlayStation's doing that right now with PC, right? They'll hold it for a year and a half, and then they'll put it on Steam. I don't know. Maybe that'll happen. Scott, it's time to wrap up the show, my friend. What games do we have today?
We have Moonstone Island on PC. Party Animals comes to PC, Xbox One, and X. Rayland 2 is on PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, X, and the Switch. And Witchfire is on PC.
I know Witchfire has caught your eye, Scott. We'll see if we get into that one or not. A lot to play over here, but that'll wrap up today's show, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us. This has been ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news each and every day. We'll be back again tomorrow. I'm Drew. That's Scott.
And we'll see you inside the game.